Main points Mr Lavrov discussed was the removal of our German language channel RTDE from Europe's main satellite network provider. It happened just moments before the interview, and the move came too at the request of Germany's media regulator. Mr Lavrov, though, slammed the action against the channel, which only began broadcasting last week, and warned that it was unacceptable behaviour on the part of Berlin and that there will be consequences.
We have been tempted to respond similarly, but until recent times we were convinced that we do not want to follow the same path and tried to put pressure on media and to follow suit with our Western partners. But you know, the same thing with Russian security. We cannot tolerate it any longer, and we believe if this unacceptable situation will go on, we will have to respond to it.
Well, to give you some context here, RTDE has faced a barrage of resistance and allegations since its launch last Thursday. It's accused of not having necessary documentation to broadcast in Germany, but RT management do insist its licence was obtained in accordance with all European laws and regulations. The new channel was also taken off YouTube the very day it was launched. Technically, there's no connection between that and the German TV broadcast dispute, but at the time, an official for a German media watchdog did say that the new channel would be taken care of. This is RT's statement in response to what's happened.
Today, the German regulator forced European satellite service Eutelsat 9 to remove the broadcast of our new Moscow-based German-language channel RT Deutsch from its platform. It is inappropriate for the German regulator, MABB, to overreach and ignore the European Convention of Transfrontier Television, under which it is subject, thereby forcing Eutelsat to remove RT Deutsch from the carrier solely due to the unsubstantiated and factually flawed claims of the German regulator. We believe this amounts to illegal pressure and are confident this action will be redressed by the courts. We will be seeking all possible remedies against the German regulator, and our audience can continue to access our content across multiple platforms and online.
The reason it's happening is because nobody wants competition, and we obviously are getting more and more popular, and the online service that we had in Germany was phenomenally successful, I should say, and naturally no one likes competition, and that's fair. I mean, we all want to compete, we're all trying to compete, trying to win our audience. The problem is that we want to do it perfectly legally, and we are absolutely sure, and we consulted with our international lawyers, that everything we've done was exactly according to the existing laws and regulations. Each new channel is getting more and more resistance, which is almost like getting a medal, because that means we're getting more and more successful. They see us as more and more of a competition. But of course they claim something which is totally ridiculous, that this is not being produced here in Moscow. But you know that the newsroom is right across the corridor. You know, the newsroom is here and the studio is here and the broadcasting facilities here, and the German regulator is trying to persuade us that this is all fictitious. We are available through many other options. I don't want to name them all, but there's a number of options for people who want to know the alternative news, and sometimes what we believe is a more accurate version of many events than what they get from the German mainstream media. We will fight legally, and I'm quite sure that we will get the possibility to bring our version of events, which is totally legitimate, to which we are totally entitled, to our viewers in Germany as well as in all other countries. As we were starting, the plan that we've used was not a plan A. Unfortunately, we were not able to use the plan A, and then we used the plan B that we didn't work to, and we are going to dispute that in a court of law with another country. So now we're going to plan D and plan E. We have many of them, but one thing is certain: people who want to know the different side of events and want to know the events and the truth that is not being brought by some mainstream German media have the possibility to do that, and we'll try to help them as much as we can.
All right, well, let's get the views now of Patrick Henningsen. He's a geopolitical analyst and joins us there from Plymouth in the UK. And a very good afternoon to you, Patrick. We don't want to get into all the legal aspects of what's gone on here. It is pretty complicated. But at first glance, at least, does this look political to you?
This looks 100% political, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. If this was strictly a EU issue, for instance, then you would see the same sort of protestations about RT Spanish language broadcasting in countries like Spain and so forth. But this isn't about anything to do with rights or EU issues or anything like that. It's purely geopolitical. Germany is really the front line right now geopolitically, and we've seen from the last few years, the United States especially is using Germany as a cudgel against Russia, mainly because of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that has massive significance, not just geopolitically, but it does affect the overall energy policy agenda that Europe seems to be moving towards, away from hydrocarbons and towards green energy and so forth. So you add all of these things together, and it seems like the last thing that the United States wants and its allies and the NATO allies want is to have Russia having a soft power presence domestically in Europe, in a country like Germany. That seems to be what the agenda is.
It's interesting you bring up the US there, because we know, even though we're told it's not linked, but RTDE was also taken off, or had its YouTube channel taken down by YouTube the day it was launched too, again suggesting perhaps, greater coordination. I don't know. Or do you see it as coincidence?
No, not at all. That definitely was the prelude to what we're seeing now. So this is clearly a coordinated effort. I am pretty certain by the sequence of events that's being pushed via Washington. And the United States has a tremendous amount of sway in Germany politically, and at the government level, of course, it has since the Second World War. So there's no secret there. But what's really disturbing about this is the total abrogation of what is a European-wide broadcasting treaty. So effectively, what German officials are saying here is that Serbia is not a legitimate signatory to this European broadcasting agreement. So that's really how they're treating Serbia in this case, if you really want to drill down to the argument that's being made by the German media regulator. So, I mean, what does the Serbian government have to say about that? They're not being treated as an equal party in this pan-European broadcasting agreement. So this is interesting.
Why do you think that RT comes under such pressure? Because, I mean, we hear in the West it's all about freedom of speech. We need to hear a plurality of views out there. And the Western narrative pretty much dominates most news networks. So RT comes along, no matter how small, and it's treated like this.
I've made this remark in the past, and I think it's because of the style that RT does broadcast. It does a slightly different format than all of the other standard broadcasters, especially in the German domestic market. So if you're flicking through the channels, obviously the viewer is the king and will draw the ratings according to what content is the most interesting. And when you pass by RT's format, you look at their news format, the way that they do the stories that they covered tend to be slightly different than the stories you see on all the other majors in the German market. In the European, the UK, the US market's the same. And not only that, but the documentary channel coverage is different types of content. So that's naturally going to draw a wider viewership. And so I think they're looking at the numbers, and they've seen the trends over the years. And as your CEO had rightly commented earlier, this is also about competition. It's about competition for narrative management. It's about soft power. And the West will not tolerate competition regarding soft power on European domestic shores, especially with the sort of situation we're seeing right now via NATO and Ukraine and Russia. So that narrative management is very, very important right now, and they're looking as a threat, basically, to have a voice inside Germany is clearly as a threat.
Very interesting. OK, Patrick, we'll leave it there. That was Patrick Henningsen, a geopolitical analyst, speaking to us there from Plymouth in the UK. Thank you.